In today's video, you guys can expect to see how I made this bar and what problems I ran into during the build. I hope you guys enjoy. If you guys have any questions, do feel free to ask me in the comments. For those of you who don't know, I use only a hammer and a chisel to take apart my pallets. I don't use pallet busters and a crowbar. Sometimes I do use a jack, but rarely. I do this because I feel like it preserves most of the pallets I work with. And I use mostly Euro pallets. For the base of this bar, you're going to need at least 3 whole pallets. Once you have your 3 surfaces, you are going to want to cut one of them in half. Now, unfortunately, one of the issues I ran into during this project was my recording device running out of storage. So during this little demonstration over here with this jig that I was using to try and show you guys how I cut this pallet board in half, my storage ran out. Hello darkness, my old friend, I've come to talk with you again.
Right, we now have the face of our bar.
To screw together this bar counter, I placed 3-inch screws into the following areas. Once the frame of the bar was finished, I took the short boards and the pallet blocks that I had left from the remaining pallets to create like side rails for the bar counter. The reason I did this was to slightly elevate the bar counter, because if you just have the pallets on their side as normal, then the bar counter's height is not high enough. This also added like a unique pallet characteristic look to the bar counter, which I thought looked pretty nice. I just used my nail gun to mount these side rails and some glue. However, I would recommend you use a drill and screws. I had a little bit of overlap on the one short board, so I just used my square to draw a nice straight line to exactly where I wanted to cut it off, so it was nice and flush with the bar counter. I simply used my circular saw once I had made my measurements, and I just cut it freehand. Once I cut the bottom half flush, I placed another short board on top of the pallet block, and I squeezed another pallet block in between as a spacer, and I mounted the top. Again, I used my nail gun and some glue, but I would recommend you guys using screws as they will be much stronger. The glue that I'm using over here to glue this block down is just normal cheap PVA glue that you can find at any hardware store. Now, if you're going to try and attempt this build yourself, I would recommend you don't make the same mistake I did over here. I mounted the bottom board first, so I was unable to mount the pallet block to the bottom board easily. So in order to do that, over here you can see I'm using my nail gun and I'm nailing the nails in diagonally downward into the board that I had mounted previously. Now, as you can see over here, again, the top short board has an overlap, so if you want to prevent that in future, you can maybe measure your short boards down beforehand, and then you don't have to cut the ends off like I did over here with my circular saw. Once I had finished the left hand side rail, I just did exactly the same on the right hand side, following exactly the same procedure. Now, if you've made it this far into this video, please just comment in the comment section, comment high five, so that I could personally thank you and get to know you in the comment section. I would like to know who my viewers are, what you're into, what do you like, what you don't like about this video. And if it's also possible, if you could just leave a like behind, so that we could push this content to other people who might also enjoy it and who are like-minded to you, so that we could spread the love. I've just taken long pallet slats and I've cut them straight using a jig for my table saw. If you guys would like to know how I straighten these boards using a jig, I will just link the video in the description for you. Right now I'm clamping down the board so that they have a nice tight seating together, and I'm screwing in cross support slats in order to hold the boards in the same position. The reason why I'm doing this is because once I've tightened these cross supports, I'm going to just sand down the boards using my angle grinder. Once I've sanded down the boards with my angle grinder, I will be removing these cross supports and mounting the slats directly into the table. Just a little tip for in future: if you do want to screw two pieces of wood together, always remember to make a pilot hole, because if you don't, your wood can crack and splinter. Now once I had mounted these particular boards that you see over here together, I actually had to start all over again from the beginning, because if you look carefully you can see the top of this tabletop is stained by a particular liquid into the grain, and there's no saving. So I'm just gonna have to start another one, and lucky for this client, his pallet that I'm using has found a little gem. This is Meranti and I think beechwood, if I'm not mistaken, so lucky him. So once I had reassembled the new tabletop with the Meranti wood, I screwed the cross supports on again, and then I took it to my miter sled just to square off the ends and get a nice straight edge on both sides according to the length of my bar counter. Once I had finished squaring off both sides and the length was perfect, I just took it back to the bar table to see if it fit nicely, and once I was happy with the fit, I took another pallet board and just closed the gapping between the countertop and the rest of the bar counter, as you can see in the video over here. Once I was finished with the gapping, I started removing those cross supports that was on the tabletop, and I started rearranging the slats in the exact same order that they originally were when I mounted the cross slats. I then took a countersink drill bit and started countersinking the original holes that were on the pallet slats when they were mounted on the pallets, so that I could get a nice flush seating with the screws that I was going to use to mount to the bar counter. Once I was finished with the countertop, I just took more pallet slats and I cut them down to the correct size to fill the gap between the side rails and the countertop. Once I was finished mounting the tabletop and the topping for the side rails, I took my angle grinder and I gave the full bar counter a final polish with some 150 grit sandpaper. Once I had finished with the sanding, it was time for me to give the bar counter a top coat. I used a top coat called NC, which is basically a protective lacquer film that goes over the top of your furniture just to give it some protection and shine. I then sanded it down with some 200 grit sandpaper just to make the surface nice and smooth. Now I know this video is a bit longer than normal, but I'm still new at YouTube and I'm testing out a couple of things, so please let me know what you guys think about the video, and if you would like to give me some constructive feedback on how I can make it better, feel free to drop some comments in the comments below. There you go, you have a perfectly nice, rustic, unique bar counter table made completely from pallets. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments what you think.